Daf Yomi, tractate Bava Metzia, page 62b, top of the page with the words Uvedinenu, Ein Machzirim Imal Volova. And yet, by our laws, one does not return the interest from the lender to the borrower, since the interest was not fixed from the outset, and there is also no certainty that he will consume any produce. This is merely a case of a hint of interest. It's a vak. Ribis. It's a hint of interest. Rav Ashi said to him, the Gentiles do not consider that transaction alone. Rather, they see this as a case where the field came into his possession by means of a transaction in the form of a sale. The field was temporarily sold to the lender, who sells it back to the borrower when the debt is paid. The Gemara asks, but if one is a case of deposit and the other is a case of sale, the principle that begins with any case whereby there are laws that Rav Sofer is saying, what is he coming to teach us? The Gemara answers that this is what he is coming to teach us. In any case where by their laws one removes the interest from the possession of the borrower to give the lender, by our laws one returns the interest from the lender to the borrower. And what is that case? It's a case of fixed interest, and it is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Elazar. And as for this statement that in any case whereby their laws one does not remove the interest from the possession of the borrower to give to the lender, by our laws one does not return the interest from the lender to the borrower. This is referring to a case of prior interest, meaning interest paid prior to the granting of a loan in order to induce the lender to grant the loan, and subsequent interest, a gift given after a loan has been paid to show thanks to the lender for lending the money. Although paying these types of interest is prohibited, as they are not actually part of the agreement, by our laws one does not compel the lender to return those payments. The Mishnah teaches how so. For example, one acquired wheat from another at the price of 1 kor of wheat for 1 gold dinar, worth 25 silver dinars, with the wheat to be supplied at a later date, and such was the market price of wheat at the time he acquired it. The price of a kor of wheat then increased and stood at 30 dinars. At that point, the buyer said to the seller, "Give me all of my wheat now, as I wish to sell it and purchase wine with it." The seller said to him, "Each kor of your wheat is considered by me to be worth 30 dinars, and you have the right to collect its value in wine from me." And in this case, the seller does not have wine in his possession. The seller is considered to be a borrower with regard to the lender, who is viewed as lending the wheat to the seller. The Gemara asks, and if he does not have any wine, what of it? Why is this factor relevant? But isn't it taught in a Braita when purchasing produce to be collected by the buyer at a later stage, one may not set a price for produce until the market rate is publicized? If the rate had been publicized, one may set a price despite the fact that the seller is not actually in possession of any such produce, as even though this seller does not have any of that produce, that one, meaning another seller, does have some of that produce, which is the first seller could purchase at market price. Evidently, once the market rate is publicized, the transaction is considered a purchase and not a loan with interest, even if the buyer does not receive the produce immediately. Bava said in the Mishnah, we are dealing with one who comes to incur a debt for their value. In other words, for the value of the wine. If the borrower, meaning the seller, possessed wine at that time, he would have transferred it to the lender, meaning the buyer, in place of the wheat. and this could have constituted a proper sale. Since he did not possess any wine, he promised it to the seller at a later date for a higher price, and this constituted a loan with interest as opposed to a sale. And this is as it is taught in a Braita, if a person was owed 100 dinars by another, and he went and stood by the other's granary and said to him, "Give me my money, as I wish to buy wheat with it." And the debtor said to him, excuse me. And the debtor said to him, "I have wheat in my granary that I will give to you. Go and calculate for me the amount of wheat to which you are entitled by the current market rate, and I will give you this amount of wheat over the span of a full 12 months, even if the price rises in the interim." Such a practice is forbidden because of interest, as this is not similar to a case where his Isser had come into his possession, since the lender did not give the borrower even a single Isar as payment for the wheat. This is not a sale, but a loan with interest. Abai said to Rabbah, "If this transaction is forbidden because it is not similar to a case where his Isser has come into his possession, why does the Mishnah specifically teach the case where he does not have wine? Even if he does have wine, it would also be forbidden, as he gave no money at the time of the acquisition." Rather, Baya rejected Rabbah's explanation and said the Mishnah should be understood like the Braita taught by Rav Sofer with regard to the halachot of interest, which was taught originally in the school of Rabbi Chia. As Rav Sofer taught a Braita from the school of Rabbi Chia with regard to interest, there are matters that are intrinsically permitted by Torah law but are prohibited because they are artifices used to circumvent transgressing the prohibition of interest. How so? If one said to another, "Lend me 100 dinars," and the other said to him, I do not have 100 dinars, but I have wheat worth 100 dinars that I will give to you," and he gave him wheat worth 100 dinars, and later he went and acquired the wheat back from him for 24 selah, the equivalent of 96 dinars. This is permitted by Torah law, as it is considered a double transaction, since it included first a loan of the equivalent of the 100 dinars and then the purchase of the wheat at a discounted rate. But it is prohibited to do so by rabbinic law because this is an artifice allowing the circumvention of transgressing the prohibition of interest. Here too, the Mishnah is referring to a case where he said to him, "Lend me 30 dinars," and the other said to him, "I do not have 30 dinars, but I have wheat worth 30 dinars that I will give to you." He then gave him wheat worth 30 dinars, and he subsequently went and acquired the wheat back from him for a gold dinar, which is worth 25 dinars. In this case, if the borrower has wine that he gives to him in place of the 30 dinars, it is produce that the lender takes from him, and therefore we have no problem with it. And if not, since he does not have wine, certainly the taking of money from him has at least the appearance of interest. Rava said to Abaya, "If so, your explanation does not accord with the wording of the Mishnah, as the Mishnah states, 'Give me my wheat,' while according to your interpretation, it should have said, 'Give me the value of my wheat.'" Abaya responds, "Amend the text and teach the value of my wheat." Rava further asks the phrase, "as I wish to sell it," it is also imprecise, as it should have said, "which I sold to you." Abaya again suggests, amend the text and teach, "which I sold to you." Rava raises yet another difficulty concerning the language of the Mishnah. The Tana states, "Your wheat is considered by me to be worth 30 dinars, but while according to your interpretation, he had also established the price for him at this amount at the outset." Abaya answers, this is what he is saying to him. The wine should be collected according to the value of your wheat that you calculated for me at 30 dinars. Rava continued to question the wording of the Mishnah. It states, and you have the right to collect its value in wine from me, and he does not have wine in his possession. But the Tana taught, at the price of 1 kor of wheat for 1 gold dinar, and indeed that is the market price of wheat at the time. Both of these clauses do not accord with Abaya's explanation. Rather, Rava said another explanation. He prefaced it by commenting, when I die, Rabbi Yehoshua will come out from the Garden of Eden to greet me. Wow, that's a cliffhanger. Stay tuned.